Poi flowers are awesome. Not only do they grant us freedom of movement with the poi, but also the spirograph-like patterns that they create in mid-air are absolutely gorgeous. Here are 5 levels of these patterns to share with your friends. Drex here from DrexFactor Poi, sharing with you the love of poi spinning and flow arts to benefit your body and brain. And today, we are going to run through poi flowers at 5 different difficulty levels. But before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Darkbunk, Fire Mecca, Flow Fests, Flow Toys, Juggling Calling, Pyroterra Light Toys, Spin Balls, and Ultra Poi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all these awesome companies and the work they're doing to support flow artists like yourself by checking out the links down in the description of this video. And special thanks to the non-business friend of the channel, Pekka Pekkonen. Thank you so much for supporting my channel, my work, and my mission. To my mind, poi flowers are kind of like the Schrodinger's cat of poi tricks. On the one hand, just understanding what they are is quite easy to do, but being able to perform them, let alone perform them in all timing and direction modes, yeah, that's a bit of a challenge. And because flowers are one of those poi tricks that we can easily add different modules of other poi concepts onto, I guarantee you that there is a flower that will be a challenge for you regardless of what your skill level is. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through 5 different poi flowers depending upon skill level that I think might be a great challenge for you. Starting with Level 1, Beginner, Inspin flowers in Together Same. So we are going to need to have some understanding of the jargon here in order to be able to navigate this list. First and foremost, knowing our timing and direction modes, together same, together opposite, and split time same direction. And also too, knowing the difference between our Inspin and our Antispin flowers. Though I don't always agree with it, there's wide consensus that Inspin